Coordinator with the Nova Scotia Working Woodlands Trust.
And I'm Shayla Nickerson. I'm also a registered professional forester, and I'm the stewardship lead.
We're going to be presenting on this newer land trust in our province, and it's all around preserving working woodlands. We'll start off by putting a few questions up on the board here, and really these questions form the foundation for why this new land trust has been built, and often cover the themes of why folks end up reaching out and are interested in the work that we're doing. So we chat a lot about what stewardship looks like for you, or what that means, how you spend time in your forest and on your land. Are you concerned about what will happen to your land after your time? Do you have a succession plan for your property? Are you concerned about land use changes? We're just getting started, so come on in if you're looking for the Nova Scotia.
Come on down.
Working Woodlands Trust. If you
$1.50. I bet $1.50.
Nice. Sweet. Are you concerned about nearby land use changes or unsustainable forestry and clear cutting? Is development creeping towards you? And really that all kind of boils down to who will continue your stewardship legacy. That's where this land trust comes in. So we're a registered nonprofit society. We're working to become and our vision is a healthy, resilient, forested landscape across the province through a network of land stewards who share a commitment to long-term stewardship. And we are aiming to uphold stewardship legacies across the province. I will add, I sometimes forget to, that this organization was incubated by the Medway Community Forest Cooperative, and this is a Crown land licensee in Annapolis County. They've existed for about 10 years, and they're piloting alternatives to traditional Crown land and practicing ecological forestry, climate resilience, preserving wildlife habitat, all that good stuff. So how are we doing this? It's in partnership with this land trust and landowners or stewards to uphold ecological integrity of the woodlands for the long term. We do this through working forest community easements. So we'll touch on this a little bit more down the line, but you may be more familiar with conservation easements like the Nova Scotia Nature Trust or Nature Conservancy of Canada. This community easement allows for some flexibility. They're not a one-size-fits-all. They're customizable to each land steward. Every property's different. Every landowner's goals are different. So there's a lot of collaboration in the process. But they exist in perpetuity. So not just your lifespan, but they're tied to the property deed. So future landowners are upholding that legacy.
Who decides how long perpetuity thing means?
Forever. The goal is forever. So we're just asking people not to sign up thinking, well, this is good for 20 years.
No, I mean like
as long
some
as we're
guy
around.
gets in the government, does he decide he's going to cancel all this bullshit or what?
No, you're funny though. We're not funded by the government and all that. We use the legislation, like there's a Community Easements Act that exists in our province, and that's the legislation that we access.
The bad thing with legislation is anybody can change it at any time, right?
Yeah, but it is a little bit harder to just destroy acts in the province.
That's what they said about Trump.
Yeah.
Whatever, okay.
I don't know that we should talk about Trump today. We're making up our presentation shorter, so I can't get into Trump, but I understand. Perpetuity is a good goal, but I don't know where we'll be in 100 years. Where
I know where I'll be.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the intention.
Everyone in this room will be dead by then.
Yes.
Yeah, the intention is there for long-term protection.
When we're talking about climate change and carbon, we're thinking, our lives are quite short in comparison to the Earth and this climate crisis that we're in. So when we're talking about protecting our forests, we're not thinking about 20 years, 50 years. We are thinking on a long-term horizon. So that is our intention. So we are building this new land trust because we know that 70% of the province is privately owned in small private woodlands, and that many of those folks are in retirement age or older, and it's not always a clear plan for succession.
Not everybody here, right?
So our goal is to uphold the forest health and the work that they've been doing over their lives, as well as to provide some program opportunities and a diversity of revenue generating opportunities. So as well as supporting individual families and woodland owners, we also aim to support communities and the environment through broader environmental protection to maintain forest cover forever.
You can't have cutting trees if the thing's in trust, can you?
Yeah, so that's why this is cool, because you can still cut trees and
No, I don't mean me, like I'll be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, once it's in trust, somebody can't come in and cut it, can
This is
they?
a working forest easement, so you can still do forest management and silviculture. Just
I didn't think they were allowed to cut any trees if you gave it to a trust, you know?
new program, so you came to
Okay.
the right place.
So
It
I can
supports-
stipulate that no forestry work done on it.
You could, yeah, so you'll see down the line, Shayla's gonna talk about zoning and what
Okay.
can and can't happen, so hang tight. We're supporting landscape connectivity and practicing ecological forestry, which I will describe in a minute. Here it is. The definition, what is ecological forestry? Any forestry activity or silviculture that considers climate adaptivity and mimics natural disturbances while maintaining biodiversity features and ecological function.
So this is where I step in. We're talking about working forest community easements. So this is a legally binding document between a easement holder, which would be the land trust, and a landowner. It really just outlines restrictions and allowances within the property. So that's in regards to like development, subdivision, natural resource extraction, and road building. The easements are tied to the deed of the property and do exist in perpetuity. So, as we've mentioned, you've heard probably of a conservation easement, which is something that's existed in Nova Scotia for a while, but we are new and have community easements. So the difference between a conservation easement is that really limits the human interaction with the land, so no harvesting or resource extraction, and all commercial activity is limited. But with a working forest easement, as long as a forest management plan is followed, resource extraction is allowed. We also have a zoning process where we can zone out agricultural or residential areas without having to do a survey, so it's a way of kind of saving money. And really the biggest difference is just the legislation. So the community easement is under the Community Easements Act, and then same with the conservation easement, two different legislations. So some of the benefits to the land stewards are that we provide FSC certified management plans for no cost to the landowner, and we update those management plans every year. You do get advice from forestry professionals. All of our management plans are written by registered professional foresters. We really do customize the easement to fit your needs, so we'll talk a bit more about that in the zoning slide, but really the main goal is to just provide peace of mind that your woodlot will be managed ecologically long-term, and knowing that your woodlot won't be clear-cut or liquidated once it's in new hands. We offer a variety of field services, so again, the forest stewardship planning, but we also develop a baseline documentation report that really outlines the values of your property. So we check for biodiversity values, we do boundary line checking, we also do a full timber volume inventory and do soil typing in each stand. Then all of this information is mapped and provided to you in PDF mapping, and also the document outlines like stand descriptions and stuff like that. And then after an easement is signed, we provide annual monitoring that's really suited to your interests. So that could be forest pest, species at risk, check your boundary lines. Each year we kind of check in with you and make sure we're looking for what you're interested in knowing about your woodlot. So our zoning process is to make sure that our easements fit your needs. We realize that most woodlots in Nova Scotia have either a house or a farm on them. And so we do this through different zones. The residential zone is where there's not really any restrictions in regards to development or farming. So it's almost like keeping it out of the easement. The working forest zone is kind of the middle ground, so that's where ecological forestry can take place. You can build new roads and follow your forest management plan as long as we're notified 60 days prior to any activities. And then we have the conservation zone. So lots of woodlot owners have an area on their woodlot that's special to them that they want to make sure doesn't get harvested in the future. So if that's something that interests you, we can work together to kind of zone those areas out. And these areas can also contribute to Canada's conservation goals of protecting 20% by 2030.
And how this is zoned is totally up to you. Some folks that we've been working with, almost the whole property may be conservation zone if that's how they feel. And for others, they may not have any conservation zones, it may be all working forests. So that's where it's not a one size fits all, that's where it's however you see fit. And we may have recommendations, like if we see a really special area or fine old growth or a wetland that we likely would never operate in anyways, we might say this might be best for conservation, and that's where we can encourage folks. But hey,
How do you pay for all this?
it's coming.
Okay.
It's on the slides. We'll be there.
And is
So-
there a minimum size, minimum maximum size?
Yeah.
We're ahead of you.
Yeah, then that's okay. But really, like, depending on the zone has different restrictions. So the permitted activities can happen anywhere within the woodlot. But pretty much this is what is limited to the conservation zone. Like, you can do some trail clearing, you can do non-timber forest product harvesting, and you can hike. The restricted activities are really, you can go.
No, I guess signing up for it's the easy part. How do I get out of it if I go down that road at some point?
So it has to be agreed upon by both parties to get out of the easement, yeah.
Okay.
Once you have all the information, you review all the legal documents with your lawyer, then you decide if this is something you want. And
Okay.
then- yeah.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't sign up for anything unless you were like intending to stay with an easement forever for the lifespan of your ownership of that property.
Okay.
See if you have the same question at the end. And then we can chat more.
Yeah, no, we can chat some more.
Yeah.
Good question.
I guess the next thing is am I better off, putting an easement on the property, you're just handing it over to Nova Scotia Nature Trust?
Yeah, I mean, that's really up to you. If you want to see, like, it still be used for timber harvesting and stuff like that long term, then maybe we're a good option, but we're also never, like, trying to compete with the Nature Trust. We really just want to provide this as an option, and if that's something you're interested in, then we'll gladly guide you through the process. But if it's something you decide that maybe it's not for you, we're never trying to sell it, more just presenting it as a possible option.
And we've developed this because there are a lot of folks who end up wanting to donate or sell their land to the Nature Trust, and they have high conditions as to what land they will take on, because there are risks with taking on land.
Yes,
So
there are.
generally, if you don't have species at risk, or it's not large, or it's not in an area of interest, a lot of folks get turned away.
Yep.
You think donating your land, sure, they'll take it, but they don't always.
No,
So we're
that's
trying
right.
to be
No,
another option for folks.
Is as you say, they have restrictions of their own variety that, it has to be.
High conservation value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And we are
I
a
mean,
bit more
at
open
this
to
point,
restoration value.
Yeah,
We're
and-
focusing on carbon value and wildlife habitat, which it opens the conservation umbrella just a little bit wider.
yeah. I'm just, I have a piece of property and it's it is that at this point is not that I'm considering selling as we speak, but I'm just my kids are both away. So that, whatever happens to it, they won't have it. So now what do I do with it? You know, I mean, I can sell it and make a profit. Is that or, you know, I'm not sure I want that. Is
Yeah.
that, you know, I mean, in the broader context, so.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely talk more with you if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm just, you know, I mean, like,
It's good to
know
start
what options
thinking.
you have.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably good on this one.
Great.
Yeah, so this is a bit of our process. We start with a discovery call, look at your property on GIS, then we come out to your land and kind of learn more about your land, your goals, see how we align. If we both seem like this is going to be a good idea, we do sign a letter of intent, which is really just a document saying we both have a shared goal of getting an easement. It's not a legally binding one, but it does allow us access to your property to do field work and do all the management planning and like baseline documentation. And whenever we come to your property, we always give at least 2 days notice. And then once all the field work is signed off on and ready to go, we do the easement, and that brings us to long-term monitoring.
Cool. So someone asked about money. Nice. That's a great question. So currently, as a new organization, we are funded by federal government grants, provincial government grants, as well as private sector funding. But the long-term goal for this is to look to carbon offsets to support our work. And I will dive into that a little bit more. But first, we want to highlight that long-term monitoring, annual monitoring is expensive, and where there are risks with land management or risks for infractions down the line. Generally, the risk is not with the current landowner who put the easement on the property, but the next landowners down the line. And so it's important to have an endowment fund. We've learned this lesson from other organizations. It's great. We're not inventing this process. We're not reinventing it. So we can learn from lessons around for other organizations. It's really important to have a strong endowment fund for us to uphold our end of the bargain and support monitoring, liability negotiations, and to have a legal defense fund for 20, 40 years down the line if we need to do restoration work or anything. And that's where the carbon offset market comes in. Today it's really difficult for small landowners to access this protocol and this economic endeavor because the volume of carbon required to access the market is really large. So generally you need about 5,000 acres before you can start looking at developing a carbon project. So it's not really accessible to the individual, but as a group coming together, the Land Trust will help aggregate that project. So we're in our initiation phase where we're meeting all sorts of landowners, getting them set up with their easements, and then we will all come together to put forward the carbon. So it's a really cool concept, and we've seen this work elsewhere in New England. There's a really great program that this worked, and a few others. But what it means is that to put an easement on your property, to have a management plan, to access resources and support, there's not a lot of upfront costs from you folks today. It means the carbon in the woods is funding its future. So we are accessing the voluntary carbon market, and the protocol is called an Improved Forest Management Protocol. And there's lots to talk about carbon offsets, but I'm going to try and keep it brief, but we're happy to chat more about it and what that means. But really, our goal isn't to get rich off carbon and have that as a huge economic driver for you. The easement is our primary goal, and funding that endowment is our main purpose, and it may be that there is some economic value that comes back to landowners.
So you're not looking to buy the property?
Pardon?
You're not looking to buy the property, you're looking to manage the property for the landowner?
Our number one project is to place working forest easements on privately owned land, so folks continue ownership, but we are working to become a charitable organization as well to accept donated lands. We do have a project right now actually for acquisition where we do have a bit of funding available to purchase a property, but that is in a specific region of the province. So there will be more opportunities for our organization to purchase land down the line or accept donated lands, but in our initiation, we're really focusing on this carbon aggregation. So once we get to about 4,000 acres, 4,500?
Yeah, 4,500 acres, we can access the carbon market, but that like you maintain ownership of your land.
Yeah,
and we work on.
We were part of a group through Community Forest International who did the carbon thing that one year.
Yeah.
And it was pretty reasonable. actually.
Yeah.
But we also have quite a network of trails on the property, and, which requires a lot of work each year.
Mhm.
You know, whether it's just, I mean, everything wants to come to where the light is, right? So you're flipping stuff endlessly and
Yeah.
Keep you busy.
dealing with younger trees wanting to get their part in it and so on. So, you know, and doing the surface of the trails as well, cutting it and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So it's a fair amount of work each year
Yeah.
to maintain those things and then the road getting into the property. too.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's why I was wondering about the funding and how you create that. So carbon offset, if you have enough land, I think in the program we were in, there was a $10,000 minimum of players amalgamating together to
Fantastic.
create enough resources for the carbon.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah. So.
And it was worthwhile chasing.
Yeah.
Because we're the forest, we have some old growth, we have quite a mix of a lot of things. We have a large section was PCT 10, 12 years ago. A lot of growth going on in there now. But there still is a lot of thinning, various types of thinning required, especially in an older age forest, opening the canopy up and so on and all that kind of stuff. Anybody that we try to get up here in Cape Breton wants to come in with a big machine and clear 100 acres of it minimum because they've got so much cost involved in their equipment and stuff.
Mhm.
So and we did go down that rabbit hole once
Yeah.
and tried to look at it, and I think out of a $65,000 total cost, the landowner, us, was only gonna get about $4,000 out of it, so.
Yeah.
So it wasn't worthwhile to do that much damage to the woods.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we're hoping that this like creates a network where we can share information, and if we have contractors that are available to do that work, trying to like connect people. We work in a large group of other organizations and try to stay informed and share that information with the landowners that we're working with.
Mhm.